Guys, breathe. Big in, big out, okay?
Okay.
Big in, one more. Big in.
Through the nose.
Okay.
Yeah, and out.
Are you just really get into your sits bones?
Okay, are you feeling a little bit relaxed, both of you guys? A little bit?
Yeah.
Let me just tell you this. I took some of the SmartLess money, I put it in Bitcoin.
Wait, what?
Will.
It's going to be fine. Welcome to all new SmartLess. I'm at the office today, so I'm not.
Wait, whoa.
But I've got a new.
What office? You don't have a fucking office.
I have an office I've had for a couple of years over here.
You don't need to talk all calm like it's no big deal. Let's talk about it.
You're really impressed with offices.
Yeah, I am. Remember the one we had you never showed up in?
Yeah. You know why? Because my dad spent 50 years working in an office, and I'm an artist, man. I'm not playing part of the business. I'm not playing businessman. Let me go in and...
Are you storytelling? Are you working out how to storytell?
I'm an artist now, okay? I'm an artist.
Wait, truly, honestly, how long have you had this? I've never heard about this.
A couple years. Here, do you want me to turn the camera on so you can see?
Wait, is this where the beast lives?
Yeah. This is where the beast lives. Hang on.
What's the beast?
I guess we'll wait. Listener, just wait. Will's got to...
Oh, Foreman.
No, he doesn't need to bring in... It's not show and tell.
Oh, he's got the leather. He's got like the bachelor leather couch.
Look at how unused that meeting space is.
What are you talking about? JB, you forget, I grew up in a serious world. You grew up, so now you're playing make-believe office manager. You've got a company.
Yeah, but there's people in my office. You've got an empty meeting space.
Dude, it doesn't matter. It's like those people who used to go like, we're going to have all these platforms for content, and we're going to create content. Like, what's the content? You can anybody can have a fucking office. Sean could have an office, for Christ's sake.
I think he does. He's talking to us from... It's just off the kitchen, though.
By the way, this is true.
Ricky's bed is there below his feet.
Ricky's right there on the floor. It's hilarious.
Hey, so how was everybody's night? So listeners, we just... or listener, sorry. I was a little ambitious there.
I know. God, what are you doing?
We had dinner again. Our Sunday dinner. We haven't had. How long had it been? Months.
Yeah, like 2 or 3 months. Yeah, that was fun. It was good to see everybody.
It was really good. It was really good to see Danny Dees.
Yeah.
The great Dan Dees.
He's the best. I love
Dan
him
Dees.
and
I'm
Dawn.
glad
Dawn.
that he and Dawn are part of our regular crew now. It's nice. It's nice.
Did everybody sleep okay today?
Yeah, we're a little tie-tie, yeah?
I guess so.
I got my PJs on still. Will, do you wear your pajamas to the office?
I don't. I could. It's so fast. It's a 5-minute drive now from my new place. It's great.
I bet they were very happy to see you. You have not been in there for a while. You're fresh back from your film.
I haven't been here in a minute. They were happy to see me, and yeah, it was good. I was up super early. I'm still a little jet lagged and still coming down. My clock is all messed up from late nights and stuff. So I don't know, just one of those. I woke up the other morning at like 4:45 and I got a coffee and then I was sitting out watching outside and I saw this huge crazy light, being followed by sort of mist. It was kind of cutting through the mist, but the light was coming from behind. I looked it up and it turns out it was a rocket being launched from just up the coast here in California.
UFO.
It was pretty spectacular to see at like 5:30 a.m. Yeah, and so I've been feeling just a little spacey, just kind of coming back to.
Well, you're still on Eastern time, so you're still getting up, and I'll bet you were getting up at 5 in the morning over there, which was 2 in the morning here. So
we were doing 5 in the morning, like Monday, Tuesdays, and then immediately switching to nights, and we did that for about 3 weeks in a row.
The little thing that I did, Jay, I was there, like we had night shoots, and it was 2 in the morning.
Listener Sean was in it as well.
Yeah. But like 2 in the morning, I'm like, okay, bye everybody. I got to go home, and I looked back, and I'm like, there's Willie still going till like 5, 6 in the morning. It was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. Of course, you're talking. And then I've got young Denny too. So Denny's been he's a little bit on New York Times too. So he's like up early and anyway, it's all good. These are great problems to have. But
Great
it's
problems.
nice being in California. Nice to see everybody.
I'm sorry about last night too. I was going to grab a bite of steak, and I forgot I had a dinner because our friend's dog died.
Okay, so JB, I'm going to walk you through this because it a little bit felt like a lie.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Well, okay, well, hang on, and I don't want to meet. I guess it looks like we have a double guest coming up, but because we got two squares.
Do.
But
Sorry, guests.
Sorry, guests, plural.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And then I want to ask you if you've locked down your car, and we don't need to say what kind it is. But,
Okay. Yes, I have.
did?
That's a
Oh,
lockdown.
listener.
Oh, that's nice.
I know.
Bobby Big Deals at the fucking office got himself a real nice car this weekend.
Bobby Big Deal.
Jesus Christ.
I know. I don't want to. Let's not go too deep. So
No,
I mean,
we're
the
gonna
big.
leave it at that.
We're gonna go do that. But I said to Sean yesterday. I talked to him in the morning. We were talking about something, and I go, "Oh, you know what? I think that the big boys like have stuff after school, and they have music and athletic stuff." So I said, "Well, look, do you want to go get a dinner? Grab a early dinner?" He goes, "Yes." And then he texts me. And he goes, "Oh, I forgot our friends. We made plans with our friends." I'm like,
Yeah, that is.
it felt a little excusey. Do you know what I mean?
No, I swear to God. Because the initial thing was like, yes, of course I want to go to Jar and have a steak with you. And
But
then
didn't you pile on the excuse just now and say that an animal had died as well?
It didn't pile on, but yes,
Well, he had a friends of theirs will remain
Kevin and
nameless.
Carrie, Kevin and Carrie.
And he said that they lost their dog. I said, well, maybe we can help them find it.
Well,
Which is a ripoff of an old Norm Macdonald joke, by the way. It's a
so
ripoff.
wait, so they lost their dog and they needed you and Scotty to sit around them and
support.
eat so that they could feel better?
The doggy's like a family member.
JB, have you tried this? Have you tried this bar?
Yeah, I have. It's
Salty
not
peanut.
bad.
It's pretty good, right?
Yeah. You can mention it, maybe get some free ones.
Okay, I'm good for $6.
I'll wait till you take a bite.
The Bear Bell bars, they're really good.
All right, listener, today we don't have some fishy, flashy, fancy celeb type.
Oh.
Not today. Today we have got not one, but two people who make the flashy, fancy types. They are two of the most important people in the industry today. Period.
What
Full
industry?
stop.
Like the
Entertainment
oil?
industry.
Oh, industry.
Okay.
Okay.
Individually-
Okay. It's not the only industry in the world. Okay.
All right. But individually, they've been behind such movies as Birdman, The Big Short, The Revenant, The Social Network, Moneyball, Captain Phillips, Austin Powers, Boogie Nights, Seven.
Oh my
Together,
Oh my gosh.
they have combined to bring us such films as Beetlejuice, Wonka, Dune Part 2, and Barbie. Let's find out how these two are able to bring us so much incredible entertainment. Please meet the co-chairs and CEOs of Warner Brothers Motion Picture Group,
No
Pam
way.
Abdy and Michael DeLuca.
What?
On SmartLess. Good morning.
Good morning.
Great.
We're going to have a couple of smart folks come on and talk to us for fucking once.
This is
Okay?
cool.
I had to hold my laughter in. Oh my God.
I want to say Pam's still at home. Mike, you're at
No.
the office.
I am.
I'm in the office.
You were both in the office.
We have two offices. We have an office we share, and then we have a spillover office. We need to do solo things. Pam's in the spillover office.
These are people with two offices.
So in all of Warner
Just the
Brothers,
two.
you only have two
Now,
options.
in the shared office, do you have one of those his and her desks where you're looking at each other?
No,
Yeah.
we thought about it, like an old movie,
diagonal we are.
like an old Howard Hawks movie, like a Ben Hecht screenplay
Yeah.
where the desks in the newsroom are together. But we went I think a more realistic.
Willie, didn't I-
Jason
we're
and I-
catty cornered.
We did have that for a second, didn't we?
Jason and I had an office for a while, for a couple of years, where we faced each other, and he would always complain, that, as you could just tell this morning, that I was never there.
Yeah.
Again, my dad was in an
What
office.
happened to the company? What happened to the company?
It went belly up.
Like a lead
'cause of
balloon.
Your
What?
shitty ideas sunk it. Hey, Mike and Pam, welcome to SmartLess. Wow,
Well,
this
thank
is
you. SmartLess.
This is an
Thank
honor
you.
for us. We're super fans. Thank
Pam
you
and
for
I
having
have
us.
threatened to do this for a long time. I'm so glad we finally found
I'm
some time
obsessed.
from your very busy schedule to do this.
Thank you
great.
for
Thank
having
you.
us.
collectively, individually, and collectively, you two are responsible for some of the greatest pieces of entertainment that
Ever.
people have enjoyed across this country ever.
Yeah,
It's true.
It's really cool. So impressive.
It
Very
is
kind of
really impressive.
Thank you.
It is. Now, but what is unique, listener, is that usually the people who are driving these factories of incredible entertainment is usually just one person. But this is a pair. This is a duo, and this isn't the first time that you guys have done it. You came from, tell the audience where you started to work on your duo-ness.
Well, I got to meet Pam. I was at this company, New Line, in the 1990s. It was my first job, actually. Out of
This is a company.
I joined. I was there as an intern in '85 from NYU. So I'd been at New Line for a long time, and Pam worked for this company, Jersey Films, which of course produced Pulp Fiction and so many great films in the '90s.
Danny DeVito and Michael.
Shamberg and Stacey Scher.
Yep.
Many of my people moved to Jersey.
This is an ongoing dumbass bit. Some Italian guy in the back wings that likes to comment. Sorry, push through it.
So that's where
okay.
I met Pam. Pam, Jersey Films produced a couple of movies for New Line. That's where I met Pam. We became best friends. She's from Jersey. I'm from Brooklyn. We're united on all things Italian food.
It's the Holland Tunnel apart.
And movies. Yep. And then we had a chance. We switched jobs, many times. I went from being an exec to being a producer. She became an exec at Paramount. I produced for her. Then when I became an executive again after producing at MGM, I invited Pam to work with me, and then we've been an executive team ever since.
Oh, it's just like, but so then again, for the listener, there's you can either be selling stuff or you can be buying stuff. And that's like a big difference, One, obviously, you're sort of like doing the dog and pony show and selling your wares. And the other one, you get to sit back in the chair, fold your arms and say, sell me. Let me hear what you've got. To overly reduce it. So you guys have done both of that at very, very, very high levels. You're obviously on the premium elite buying side right now. Is there a side that you like more? I mean, obviously, with the selling part, you spend more time sort of out there in the trenches and on set sometimes, and on the buying side, you're in a more air conditioned situation. Yes, snacks are better, more consistent
situation.
What do you prefer?
Well, it's different pleasures. When you're a producer, it's more artisanal, and you're building the project from the ground up with the director, and you're just so much more intimately involved in just the creative aspects of movie making, and it's just a different pleasure. You're kind of part of a family that erupts, as the thing starts to take shape,
right.
and it's a really wonderful experience, and you're with these people for.
It's stressy, I bet, yeah, because you're not in control. You're not the buyer.
You sing for your supper a little bit more,
right.
but we find there's advocacy on both sides. If you're a producer, you're advocating for a financier or a studio to greenlight you. But even when you have the power of the checkbook, you're still advocating for your boss or the board that you report to finance a slate of pictures, and there's advocacy on kind of both versions of the job.
But the agenda is different. Yeah, Pam, I mean, you're like, while you're advocate, you need to sort of mind the asset a little bit more on the buying side, and on the selling side, you can be a little bit more sort of purist and like, no, just whatever's better for the film. I mean, I'm oversimplifying it.
But you also know, as both having been on the other side, that you can't bullshit a bullshitter. So if somebody comes to you and is like, hey, this, and then you're like, hey, man, I know how the sausage is.
Nobody can tell Pam. Nobody can tell Pam. No producer's going to pull the wool over Pam's eyes on budget. She can literally do both jobs. With her eyes closed.
My love. I mean, Jason knows this because Jason and I have produced a movie together and worked together. My first love will always be producing because I just love the grind and being on set. As you guys know, it's just the best. There's nothing like it.
Well, then, do you miss that?
Always, but I love this too. They're not, it's not either.
You guys can go visit the set.
We
right,
do.
Exactly. Anytime you
but
want.
I am, you can't pull the
not
wool
watch
over
the
me.
Studio.
Yeah.
Well, you got to really watch it. Like if you're not we try to visit the set. If you don't visit, sometimes they think, oh, well,
you don't
you care about us?
Right.
But then when you do show up, people are worried, like, oh, are we over budget? Is there a problem? You really got to navigate that carefully of when and how we show up.
Who's more prone to say, hey, let's go visit that set? Who likes to get out a little bit more often?
Oh, Pam,
Me.
for
Really?
sure.
I like to go rogue.
Yeah. I have a terrible turbulence anxiety. Like I have a flying phobia. So I do it, but it's not something, that I volunteer for a lot.
Yeah, Will has a little bit of that.
I do.
Oh, really?
I do too. It's gotten increasingly worse. And you know what? In the last couple of months, it's been a little bit better. But these guys know I get quite.
Now, where does it? Will, you didn't have like a bad experience, right? It's just like as you become older,
I think it's
more
once
responsible. Kids,
when I had kids. When I had kids.
Same with you, Mike, or did you have a bad experience?
Yeah. No bad experience. A shrink told me once once. It's a control issue, obviously. And
Sure.
a lot of people get it when they get their first dose of real responsibility. So when New Line made me head of production in the 90s, I was 26, 27, and I it was the first big responsibility I ever got.
Incredible.
That's when I got the flying phobia, and then it's escalated since I've had children and gotten more responsibility. It just kind of increased exponentially.
Have you thought about working? I have considered working through it because I know I have a friend of mine who years ago he had access to tremendous resources, but he went with that guy who's famous for walking people through that phobia, and he did. I think he told me he did a month of flights, and he'd go to like LaGuardia. He lives in New York. And they'd look at the board and they'd pick a flight and they'd go, they'd fly to Cleveland, then they'd fly to Houston, then they'd fly to Miami. And he did that for about a month.
Yeah.
And the guy walked him through basically every scenario. And he got over
Yeah, well,
it.
I'm telling you, when I got stuck in that elevator, like my therapist said, the best thing you could do from now on, because I was in such a massive panic. She goes, ride as many elevators as you possibly can.
Right. It's like aversion therapy. It does help. I accidentally stumbled into aversion therapy because my ex-wife lives in Fort Worth, Texas with my children, and I travel there every weekend,
weather.
so I'm on planes twice a week, and it's just kind of, normalized it for me, so that's helped a lot. And then information helps me, so I fly with a lot of apps. Like I have apps going that tell me where the plane is in relation to every other plane.
You should fly with
Dude,
him.
me
and
too.
what the weather is like, and it really
Wait
helps.
a second,
Mike, I'll tell you something. Mike, I do the same thing, and I'll tell you
Tracking
what I've done
traffic
recently.
while you're in the air.
Yeah.
I track my own flight, and I look at
too.
AccuWeather, and I look at FlightAware, and to see what the thing. And I'm like, are these guys going to go around this storm or not?
I'm
Yes.
right there with you, brother. I literally will go to
God.
the flight attendant. Excuse me,
Yeah.
flight attendant. I noticed that this plane at 34,000 feet is smooth. Could you perhaps ask our pilot to kick it up 2,000 feet? 'Cause
Oh my
we're
God, they
bopping
must
around
love
at
you.
32. And she
By the way,
goes,
do you know that they now have this new software that the pilots use that shows them where turbulence is, that they all share it, and it's like a do you know about
PIREPs.
this?
Yeah, pilot
Yes.
PIREPs, pilot
Of course.
reports.
He knows
Yep,
everything,
I'm right on there.
Will. He knows everything. I fly with him a lot.
But here's my suggestion. This is what and this is recent. Just this spring, I decided to stop doing it. I had a moment, Mike,
Brave.
where I went, I'm not flying this plane, and the pilots don't want to die.
Right.
Yeah.
That's trust. Somehow you've achieved trust. I'm still working on trust.
Here's what I do. I fly the first flight out as much as I can because I'm so unbelievably exhausted. I don't care what happens.
Oh.
Are you able to sleep on planes?
I fall asleep in a second.
Oh, I'm so envious of that.
So
Well,
because
that explains your diet too. That you don't care
Wait,
what happens.
Mike. What about a nice cool beverage to cut the edge, or maybe
I'm sober, so I'm in a lifetime timeout of anything.
what about are sleeping pills on your list of?
No, I can't. Yeah,
No.
I'm not. They're on the no fly
what
list
about
for me.
what about melatonin or and no?
Yeah,
It
no, I
just
try to
gets
do
you
it
groggy.
substance free and just use my apps and engage with the flight
Same.
attendants.
Same.
When
man.
we're flying together, I'll go check on him, and then he tends to show me every app. So then I start to have a panic attack, which I don't normally have on a flight, but yes, that's what we do.
Yeah, you know what I feel would help all of us is if we flew in one of those hurricane planes that the Air Force
Totally.
has.
Yeah.
you
I
know?
think about that
Because
often.
They
Me
fly
too.
literally into the wall of a hurricane
do?
to measure
How
the
do they
speed
survive?
of the winds. Well, that's just it. It turns out planes can handle so much more than you think that they
Totally.
can. So once you
Right.
once you basically
Oh.
scuba dive with a shark, you're no longer scared of sharks because you look
Right.
them in the eye and
Right.
they don't care about you.
And by the way, I was talking to my therapist the other day, and it turns out that humans can withstand so much more too.
oh, Will,
Jesus.
yeah, you can do it, Willie.
We are resilient.
Oh,
Humans
God.
can too.
We can handle it.
Now, let's talk about real fear. Let's talk about budgets. Let's talk about
Dave Zaz. Let's talk about Zaz.
Zasloff.
Knocking on the door.
But also, like to Jason's point though too, like I want to get into that because I'm fascinated watching from the sidelines about movies and stuff, and like why, what is your opinion about, because I'm sure you guys talk about this, we all talk about this, everybody in the business talks about what's the state of the business, because it seems like, first of all, it seems like you tell me the perception is that the star of any movie now is the idea. because movie stars, at least there are some that can still, you go, oh, I want to see that person. I like that person. I like that person. But for the most part, do I have that right? Or is
Yeah,
that,
like stars used to open films, and now it's a little bit more plot and premise driven to
that right?
drive audience. And
I think there's an element of truth to that. However, you see each new generation kind of they still want to create their own movie stars. So you have people like Timothy Chalamet and Austin Butler and Florence Pugh. Like basically anyone on the red carpet for Barbie or Dune is an example of young audiences creating new movie stars.
What brought audiences to that is the concept before the star, right?
Yeah, it's exponential if you can no, I think Chalamet playing Bob Dylan was a great example
for sure.
Combining,
good.
something iconic with an actor people clearly want to see. I think there's opportunities to create new movie stars. Movie stars still matter. But it is, with the advent of streaming where people get so much content, constantly, you do need that sticky idea and that provocative, audacious kind of concept to break through
that
theatrically.
pre-existing IP, like Superman.
Well, we've been inundated, right? As who was it who said? Tom Rothman said the tyranny of IP, and we've been inundated with it, right? And is there something?
Says the guy who only has one Marvel title.
Way to go. Way to go. Now you just made his shit list.
Well, no, I love Tom.
No, I'm kidding. He's a great.
And we will be right back.
And now back to the show.
My question is, I guess, in the face of all of that, is there, and be as candid as you want to be, you're comfortable as being, given if all things being equal, if you could control the appetite of film goers and people who go into the theaters, what would you do? What kind of films would you make? Would you greenlight? Would you develop? All things being equal.
All things being equal, we really believe in a diversified slate because we feel like the world's become pretty nichey. So we try to have something for everyone. So all your eggs aren't in one basket. It's almost impossible, even for Disney, which owns those 4 giant labels of Lucasfilm and Pixar and Marvel. You can't have a 20 tentpole slate.
Right.
There's just not that much IP available to just have nothing but billion-dollar movies every year, although we certainly love it and everybody tries. So,
but there's room for the originals too, like what you guys just did with Sinners, right?
Yeah, we think a balanced slate where you have something for everyone. And yes, if you're lucky enough to have IP and you can mine those franchises, great. But then it's also great to give new voices a chance, new filmmakers, directors that.
So if you could change one thing, you'd maybe try to get the audience to be a little bit more thirsty for something weird and original and without.
See, I think they are.
I think they are.
Yeah, I think I think if we could change anything, it would be to get our fellow studios to make more movies. I think box office is down just because the amount of films has never really ticked back up since the pandemic started to recede.
Well, and also you can just get it on streaming.
I mean, the other thing I think that's important for the audience now is directors. I think there is a relationship with this next generation where they can tell when a signature filmmaker has their voice on a movie.
Yes.
They can tell that.
Like a Jordan Peele or Ryan Coogler.
Yeah, Jordan Peele or Ryan Coogler or Greta Gerwig or Chris Nolan.
Paul Thomas Anderson.
Or Edgar
They
Wright.
can sense authorship or the lack of it. They really can.
Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman.
This guy. What
Absolutely,
a guy.
Jason Bateman. We're waiting for a much bigger filmography, man.
A Jason Bateman picture. He refers to himself in the third person a lot. You know that? He's always
Film by.
I think the world needs another Jason Bateman
I told
picture. He
him.
always
I
says
love
picture.
Jason.
Jason,
I love saying
I told Jason to start directing when we were making Identity
Yes, you
Thief.
did.
No,
Yes, you did.
he's such a good director,
Thank you.
and we always encourage him to make more comedies too because he's such a funny mofo. But can I ask you this though, just while we're on this topic, is there, and again at the risk of I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but is there. Has the sort of the onslaught of IP and again there are lots of great films that have come out in this era, and there are a lot of people whom we all know and love who have made these and have done really well, and blah, blah, blah. The list is very long. But have we, in a certain way, have we dulled our taste buds for other kinds of films? Have we changed? Is there a chance that we altered people's tastes
Because the big things are so loud and sticky now.
Well, yeah, that we don't. we're all older. We're all the same sort of generation. We were all raised on a diversified slate of films that came out every year, and there were lots of comedies and dramas and action, et cetera, et cetera. And so we
had The Verdict and Raging Bull and Kramer versus Kramer, which now you can't have those sort of adult dramas.
Yeah, and so now everything's been kind of like it's what people complain about pop music, if you will, that everything just becomes the very homogenized and very much the same. And have we damaged tastes?
I don't think so. I think, and again, because your tastes are always refreshed by new audiences coming up. I think what's happened is the bar has just gotten higher for what we consider theater-worthy criteria. Things that will make something not streaming but theatrical. But I think when you see a spread of theatrical successes from Long Legs or Everything Everywhere All at Once, from the Neons and the A24s, they're not tent poles. They're not making $1 billion globally, but they are pulling in audiences theatrically.
Right.
And then on our side of the street, when you have something as diverse as Minecraft, and then the next weekend Sinners, or at Universal, Oppenheimer, and then we had Barbie. Yeah. I think that people are up for the theatrical experience, and they're up for a variety of movies. The bar is just higher for what will get them out of the house, and that's our job, to meet that higher bar. Yeah,
and it's less about how theatrical is not as good. It is more about how streaming is more appealing, and there's good stuff to watch at home, and
convenient.
Yeah, they're not mutually exclusive.
There's enough to go around. Yeah, I think there are consumers that are happy to wait for streaming or watch streaming originals, and then there's consumers that want the theatrical experience.
And there are people who don't want to ever leave their house, right? Who don't want to go. They won't even go to Larchmont, even though it's 3 blocks away.
Right.
I won't even.
I wonder who that could
Sean,
be.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you can get everything on your phone.
Go ahead, Sean.
You said you'd love it if studios made more movies.
Yeah.
What do you think is the primary reason that they're not making more movies, because it's getting increasingly more expensive to build a sort of a public profile for it, like a marketing profile, like we got to buy a bunch of commercials for it and sort of build that social pressure to go see this thing, because everyone's seeing the billboards and the commercials and, oh my God, I guess I got to go see that because I got to talk about it at work. It's cost so much money to buy those commercials and those billboards that people say, maybe I'll just make it for streaming where I don't need to do all that stuff. It's just production costs. Is that one of the big things that?
No, I think it's about, yes, it's expensive to make some films, but you can make films at different budget levels depending on what it is.
But isn't the price to sell them the same?
But I think you have to meet. I think marketing has changed, and I think you have to meet the audience where they're receiving their advertising. So
not necessarily a 30, right?
Not necessarily a 30-second linear TV spot, but like digitally, like what we saw, just how we saw the fervor of Minecraft with the chicken jockey and the memes taking on a life of its own, coupled with 2 weeks later Sinners, and like Mike and my TikTok feed just filling with people, experiencing this film. Like that was magical, magical to see that happen. And I think that's where they are.
Yeah. I think every legacy studio, by legacy studio, I mean, the Paramount, Sony, us, the non-streamers, coming out of the pandemic, everyone is cautious about, okay, is box office down because the pandemic irrevocably altered viewing habits, or is box office down because we're making less movies? Pam and I feel like it's because we're making less movies. Some people feel human behavior may have been altered, and the audience may be never coming back at the level they were in pre-pandemic. So I think as everybody tries to figure out the answer to that, and it's a very fluid situation, working your slate back up to 10, 15, 20 movies a year, it's going to be a slow, cautious process. Everyone's kind of feeling their way of what's exactly causing the downturn. Is it the hangover from the pandemic, or is it that we're not making the same amount of movies? And
Right. Almost to that point, it seems like, and you guys tell me, more people than ever are out of work in the history of the entertainment business. It seems like writers, that used to work all the time can't find a gig. Like
crew members,
actors, directors, producers, crew, everybody. Why is that, in your opinion? And what does your crystal ball say about the future of that? Do you see that changing? Like Village Roadshow, didn't they just go bankrupt or something? It just seems like the entertainment business is collapsing.
Yeah.
It's getting smaller because there's less stuff being made. Yeah.
Yeah, there's more.
Yeah.
There's been some consolidation, in the industry, so that immediately means less buyers on the block. There was a contraction in production, both on the series side and the feature side, as we were navigating the pandemic, and then the so-called streaming wars, which were never really a war. Netflix won that war before it even started because they had a 20-year head start. I do think things are picking up and will tick up, maybe not to pre-pandemic levels, but I think that has been a symptom of both.
It's all
I think the
cyclical,
studios-
right, Pam?
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead,
Yeah, I
Pam.
was just going to say, just the studios making less movies, like we were saying, but also if you go to TV, streaming has created the 8 to 10 episode series as opposed to what we all grew up with, on network television with 22 episodes. And you constantly felt like, you had all those linear networks that were creating multiple shows, filling must-see TV and all that stuff. And I feel like that has been altered, quite a bit since the streaming and since the pandemic.
Sean, you used to do how many? 24 episodes a year on Will and Grace?
Sometimes 22, sometimes 26, sometimes 23.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Amazing.
And then they don't. Ozark, how many do you guys do?
Just 10.
JB? 13? 10?
10.
10.
And they're remaking it, right? They're doing it with robots, and they said it's got more life to it.
You see the way he can set it
Works that
and,
right in
and
there,
hit
yeah.
it. Yeah.
They
Got
said
it
it's
right
gonna, it's gonna, it breathes more.
Yeah, but what was I going to say?
By the way, Will, we use Lego Batman in every tribute reel to Warner, every best of Warner Brothers reel that we screen at
you.
CinemaCon. We always include Lego Batman.
Yeah, it's our
Don't
favorite.
do that to him, Mike. He's going to dine out on that.
Thank you.
We love it.
So guys, you have been uniquely great individually and also together, and in really getting behind some of the more specific creative voices behind these movies. People like Paul Thomas Anderson and David Fincher, et cetera, et cetera. When you are collaborating with someone like that, who they like to keep the edges on, and that's what the audience likes too, but oftentimes, that's at odds with the goal to get as many people in the tent as possible, buying a ticket and making it mass appeal, and kind of around the edges sometimes, and not be as controversial, not be as challenging. How do you manage that on the producing side, on the selling side? It's probably a lot easier, but in your current roles as trying to bring in profits as well, are those conversations difficult? Do you err on one side or the other? Walk us through that a little bit.
I find it because of our background. I mean, listen, I'm 30 years in. Mike's longer than that. We're just a little.
It's very polite of you, Pam. Thank you for saying.
Wow.
Just not naming the number of
Shots
years.
fired.
No. I'm just saying I'm 30 years in, whatever. But I think because both he and I have been in the trenches on a producerial side, there's a certain level of understanding and trust that we bring to this job. So the filmmakers that we work with, some of them we've had long relationships. Like we're working with Alejandro Iñárritu right now. I'm on my fourth film with him. Jesus. I think it's there's a trust, there's a collaboration, there's a respect. I mean, you have to earn the filmmakers' respect, So I think what we bring to the table is because we have this knowledge of being on the ground and going through the ups and downs and the difficulties of what it is to be on set every day and try to make something great, because we all set out to make something great, and sometimes shit happens and it doesn't come out exactly how you envisioned it. You have to be in lockstep together as creative partners. So I think Mike and I try to approach it that way, where we look at filmmakers as our partners. We all have the same end goal, to make something great and to get the biggest audience in the theater to see it. So I don't find it difficult. I actually find it invigorating.
Well, that's really funny, Pam. That's really funny because you often hear people, you do in comments and stuff, saying, these fucking people in Hollywood, and they just want to make shit movies. Like, nobody sets out to make a shitty movie, by the way.
I know.
Everybody's intentions are good.
Right. Right.
And it's and there's no blanket statement for Hollywood. Like it's so different. Our friend Donna Langley at Universal is different than Tom Rothman at Sony. We do our thing at Warner's.
Yeah,
like it's not
Donna, another one from New Line that started out not as an intern, right?
No, we actually hired Donna. She was an assistant to a manager at the time, and
Wow.
and she, and she and another executive, Mary Parent, who went on to do great things and is
My God.
running Legendary
It's a
for Josh
factory.
Grode.
Yeah.
New Line, it was a great kind of training ground for a lot of people in the 90s. And when you met Donna and you knew she was going to run an empire someday. I mean, she was just born to do it.
Has been in that position of leadership longer than anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like ever
Through
maybe?
multiple
I mean,
regimes,
running
yeah.
Universal. It's just
By the way, the
so
New
incredible.
Line,
That's
the
awesome.
people who have come in and out of New Line, it's a pretty interesting slate of people now that I
Yeah.
think about it. All the people, Brenner's still there with you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, he is.
Then you've got
Toby Emmerich wasn't he
obviously
there?
Toby.
Yeah.
And then you have our buddy Ken Alterman, who
Love.
Yep.
who
Love
is there.
Ken
Who's we're still Jason and I still play golf with. We love
Oh,
Ken
cool.
Alterman.
Ken's great.
Love
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ken. And I'm just thinking, like, wow, that was it. What an interesting place that was for a lot of people who kind of, learned their stuff there.
Yeah, we were given the freedom to really run our projects, and even though you're an executive, you almost behave like a producer at New Line at that time. So we all learned a lot.
Interesting.
And it really does seem like you guys are creating that or continuing that environment of trust and deference to a very specific filmmaker agenda, like something like Sinners, for example. Like, I have not seen it yet, but from what I've seen from the materials and heard from people, it's a very specific and exciting, creative
the response is
leap.
incredible.
Oh,
to this
yeah.
It
film.
is.
People are
It's
just
been
going crazy
amazing,
for
yeah.
it.
We're so happy for Ryan.
Selling popcorn and getting incredible reviews.
Yeah.
So, like, that's the mother load right there, right?
Yeah.
So, talk about how frightening that can be to. Well, you, as you say, Pam, you're a partner with the filmmaker. You're coming from a place of shared experience and you kind of know what they're going through and blah, blah, blah. But eventually, one has to just kind of close your eyes and jump in and just say, all right, Ryan, I get what you're going for here. We're really not going to be able to gauge until we're done. And so we have to trust you. We have to wait till after principal photography, get through post, have all that music come in and the color timing and all that stuff to create this very finely cooked meal that it looks like nothing coming out of the grocery store. You look at all the ingredients on you don't know what you've got till it's cooked. And so you have to give him all of that runway. Is that really, really frightening, or is it exciting, or both?
And we'll be right back.
Sorry, we got to reload.
No, it is a good question. It is a good question. It was long, but it is
long.
a good question.
I find it exciting. I have to be honest. I think when you have that chemistry with a filmmaker, with a director, and when you're pushing and pulling on things, it's not like we're just sitting here saying, hey, go off and run in the field and make this movie. We're all talking all the time through the script process, through
Run in
the
the field.
screening
Where did you get
process.
that from? Like running
Because I don't know. It's just,
run in the field.
go off and play it and play and
This is going to be a
play.
new. People are going to start to use this. By the way, this
Running the field.
Thanks, Will. Thanks for Mike teasing me. Thanks, Will.
At a
liked it.
Netflix meeting tomorrow, they're going to be like, "Look, guys, we're not going to be running in the field over here." Because Ted
That's how-
doesn't want
that's
us.
how
Ted doesn't want us
Jason's
running. In the,
Exactly. You're gonna
Pam,
sell
I just
your
want to
next
run in the
movie.
field.
Frolicking, having a good time.
Yeah.
It's going to be the Variety headline tomorrow. Like Pam Abdy of Warner Brothers advocates field running as a
By
business
the
plan.
way,
Stock price
by the way,
plummets.
the last 6 weeks I've been having, I wouldn't be surprised. Anyway,
No,
Warner
no,
Brothers.
guys.
Warner ankles field running.
But Ryan, when you're dealing with Ryan comes to the table trailing, like $2 billion in box office. Like yes, you could call it IP, but he created the Creed franchise out of his head,
Right.
and he Black Panther. I'm a comic book fan. I'm a huge comic book collector still and geek fan, and I knew the Black Panther character, but it's not like that was one of the top 10 characters. Ryan, created that franchise also again out of his mind, obviously under the brilliant Kevin Feige too. But so when you're doing a film with Ryan Coogler, who has that pedigree, it is a little bit of a hedge against the unknown. I mean, greenlighting movies at a studio is like being at a casino. You have a certain amount of money and you're placing bets and you're hoping more than work than don't work. But the only hedge against the unknown is sometimes you can point to someone's track record. Like when we hired David Fincher to do Seven, I thought Alien 3 was a beautiful movie. It didn't work as big as they wanted to commercially, but there was tremendous artistry, and of course he had all his music videos and his commercials.
Amazing.
Before that point, made hiring him for Seven very, very easy. We were lucky to have him. So when you can look at someone's pedigree, whether they're established like Ryan or a new voice coming up, like we just made a movie with this guy, Zach Kreger, who did the movie Barbarian. And I think he's an amazing... I love that movie. Wasn't that an amazing movie?
Great. Yeah.
Totally,
so good.
It's great.
Totally unique, surprising in the genre, innovated within the genre. Yeah. We were lucky to get his next movie. When you can look at someone's previous work, also another great horror movie that came out, Talk to Me, by these two directors who started on a YouTube channel, Raka Raka, in Australia.
Oh, wow.
When you can look at people's previous work, it gives you a little bit of a hedge against the unknown, and that helps us make that call sometimes.
There used to be that old adage, or that thing that people would say, that the studios are in the business of not making movies, right? Do you remember? No, is that true?
Yeah, I remember that. I remember when they used
There was
to
a
say
period,
that.
right?
Yeah.
Where studios were playing defense.
There was a period when I was a non-writing producer, which is literally like Willie Loman, with scripts under your arm, like driving all over town, pitching your wares.
Right. That was just from somebody who just got you get somebody passed on. They're like,
yeah,
movie studios are making a movie. Yeah,
studios would almost be like, we dare you to make a movie.
Right.
We dare you to get us to make a movie, and that I find not a helpful attitude.
Yeah, that's not helpful. I also don't think you can declare like that. I think that was like in the early 2000s, Will, when like after the boom of the 90s and like we're starting to shift and internet and all that stuff was happening in tech and everything. I just don't think you can declare any one thing, right? You can't say, this is the way it is, so we shouldn't make these kinds of movies until one works.
Although when we lost DVDs, when DVDs went away, we did lose a safety net, and
we did.
And streaming doesn't quite make up that gap. So we are working without a net, But I also think, like Pam said, that can be really exciting because I think for the consumer, it means that the bar for quality really, really has to be high to get you to get out of your house and convert to being a ticket buyer.
But people couldn't have predicted back then in the early 2000s what it was going to become, and I think that sort of fear. So as you said, that you lost DVDs. However, everybody was so nervous at the advent of the internet and social media. You remember the fear. I remember the first when MySpace took off, and people were trying to greenlight movies with people who had a presence on MySpace, and everybody's clamoring to be. People were not able to predict what it would be in the same way that we can't now with things like AI, et cetera. And of course, we're going to look back in 10 years and say, my God, we were so foolish to spend so much time worried about X, Y, and Z.
I agree.
Totally.
And because there obviously something else will happen. People will want to watch stuff. People will want to enjoy stuff in some way.
Yeah.
And
there is they want the communal experience,
Right,
for certain kinds of films, they want to go and sit with their neighbors and go watch the movie and then go to a cafe afterwards or a bar and have a drink and talk about it.
Yeah, and I get that being in a big dark room with a bunch of strangers, it's really fun to like get a shared experience.
That was my 20s in Chicago.
That was Berlin for me. That's Berlin. Twice a year. I allow myself twice a year.
We'll be right back.
And back to the show.
But to like everybody be in the same room all at the same time, get scared. I get why horror movies make so much money.
Yeah, for sure.
Now to think about, crying next to a stranger, I get how maybe dramas, I'd rather maybe see that at home on a streamer. I get that. What I don't get is that there isn't the desire for a shared experience with laughter in a group of people. Tell us what you guys think. What is your theory of why comedy is such a hard sell in movie theaters nowadays?
I'm going to jump in real quick with a super fast answer, and you guys do. It's because comedy now you can get on your phone in little tiny bites, and you're fulfilled. And I think that has a bit
does
to do
make
with
sense.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Part of
Guys,
it.
I got to run.
TikTok.
Taking off.
TikTok has killed
I'm
it.
so sorry. I'll talk to you guys later.
Sean Hayes, brought to you by Netflix.
Yes.
And TikTok.
By the way, think
TikTok.
about people used to go to theaters to watch porns together.
That's
Think about
true.
that.
What do you
Talk
mean
about a
used
shared
to?
experience.
That's over now.
Right, Sean? That's over now,
Used
right,
to,
Sean?
used to. Yeah,
Still going.
But I think a lot of comedy has gone to live on streaming, and and TikTok in short form. However, I do think that theatrical audience is there. I thought Jen Lawrence's movie No Hard Feelings was a good shot at it.
Yeah.
And I do think
That's one for Tom. Tom got it right. Oh, is that Tom Rothman?
Yes,
Yep.
Tom
Hey,
Rothman.
Tom.
You're back.
Also,
this guy.
Look, I'm gonna give Tom Rothman too. Anyone But You came out and worked theatrically.
Thank you, Mike, for showing Jason up. Jason, Tom is so mad at you.
Two Tom movies.
Tom is mad at you now.
Also, comedy's different now. Comedy's different than when we grew up. It's told in a different way, and it's different.
But I think if you had, if you had. We want to bring R-rated comedy back. We want to bring romantic comedy back. But I do think it's a case if you build it, they will come. We just so much of the talent, the new talent, has gone directly right into streaming and TikTok and YouTube that we're just trying to steer them back to, look, let's take a shot with an original script. Let's take a shot with a.
Well, we had Blum on here a while ago, and
Jason Blum,
because he and Tracy knows because she heard it.
Yes, okay, very good.
And we had Blum on here because he basically forced us to have him on, and we love it. We love it. It's a joke. He was amazing.
We love Jason too.
Yeah, we love him.
Jason too.
I couldn't love him
Who
more.
doesn't?
But we did talk to him about because he was, he's obviously the master of horror and horror.
Yeah.
I said, why can't we make a comedy? He said, you just can't make any money. And he was
I
quite blunt
disagree.
about it.
No, we're going to prove him wrong.
I'm just suspicious of blanket statements like that because everybody says. So my career is 40 years now since 1985.
You look great,
Every
Mike.
time someone says thank you so much, it's I moisturize. I think every time someone says this will never work again, and then something comes out and proves it
Yes,
wrong.
exactly.
I remember
Just the
the
right thing.
R-rated comedy was dead, and then American Pie came out, and suddenly everybody had to have an R-rated comedy.
Yeah.
Hollywood can be such a pack animal sometimes,
Yeah.
and I just am very suspicious of blanket statements.
And reactionary too, right?
Yes, very.
Yeah, one of the greatest things I ever heard is everybody wants to be the second person to say yes.
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
quote.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's more fun being first through the door.
That's
It
true.
just is.
But
of course.
You know?
Look, this could be famous last words, but Pam, for better or worse, Pam and I feel like you can't do this job if you're afraid of getting fired. You got to be fearless in it, because if you breed risk out of the system, then innovation dies and the customer moves on. And
Right.
And it also breeds a culture of people not wanting to pitch exciting new ideas.
Yeah.
And just because it hasn't been done before doesn't
Right.
mean it's not going to work.
Right.
And I just think
you could do both. You
Yeah,
could
you
walk and
can.
chew gum at the same time. You can mine your IP, your franchises, but you can also try to find that next generation of filmmakers that'll give you new franchises.
Speaking of IP, you mentioned earlier you're a big comic book collector, Mike, and so one of the things you guys get to oversee is DC and James Gunn and Peter Safran in there. And tell us what you're excited about coming out of there.
Well, we have to stipulate DC reports directly to David Zaslav. We don't oversee it, but we were big supporters of Peter and James taking the job.
work in
because
concert with.
Yeah, we
Yes.
agree that that label, really could have used. We thought our advice when we were asked is it doesn't need another career executive. It needs a storyteller in charge.
Yeah.
We were really impressed with Pixar. They brought Pete Docter, who's a filmmaker, in from the field to be chief content officer and preside over their slate of movies. And James, I used to chase James as a producer, when he did Slither and started with his low budget movies.
Yeah.
And he's really unique. And I think DC's in great hands with the two of them. We've seen an early cut of Superman, and I don't want to bury the lead. There's a lot of marketing about to roll out on the way to its release, but he really understood the assignment. His heart's in the right place. His aim is true, and we're really excited about their new version of DC.
That's cool.
James is great.
Awesome for the whole studio though too, because it allows for you to sort of cross promote and like what
It's
is
great.
it, the rising tides. Will, what's the saying?
Well, all boats.
All boats rise.
Yeah.
What do you guys think
God, you're
about?
gonna love the real world at some point. You're gonna fucking.
I just knew I was going to get it slightly wrong. and I was
Honestly,
gonna
it's
get-
really enjoyable.
It's nice that you guys have each other's backs.
I know, I love it.
Yeah, it's so.
What do you
shitty.
guys think about, remember Quibi when Quibi came out, which may or may
You
not
promised to
have been.
never bring up Quibi again.
Come on, Sean.
What are you doing?
Wait,
Now
No,
we
wait.
hurt Rothman. Now you're hurting Jeffrey. What are
I
you
didn't
trying to
say
do?
anything about it. I just said, do you
No,
remember
I'm
it?
kidding.
I do remember it.
Okay. And I just read I didn't read the whole thing. I read a blurb about that. That's coming back now, like short little things, like short episodes that are 2 minutes long. And they're really picking up, and kids on social media are loving it. They want a whole season of like 2-minute episodes and 10 2-minute episodes or something that tell a story. What do you think about that? Is that true? And is that really picking up steam?
Yeah, I personally think YouTube and TikTok and some of the platforms are really about user generated content, and I think that's great, and I think some of the user generated content kind of will evolve into scripted content occasionally.
I think so too,
but it, in a way, when Quibi debuted, I'm not an MBA. I'm not half as smart as a lot of the people involved in who ran that company, and I would never say that I know better. I did think though, like YouTube kind of has that base covered, even then in terms of I thought what people really love about those platforms and short form content is that it's user generated. It's there's no distributor involved.
Right.
It's the creator directly to their audience.
And that's right, and it's for those platforms.
It's their
and I think that's kind of
channels,
wonderful. Yeah, about that.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I actually do think that it was a sort of a valiant effort to try to do that and to get into that space. But I think that you're right, and I think that it seems to be one of the mistakes that is consistently made is that people try to jump out of their lane, and there's nothing wrong with taking chances, but they say, well, we're going to do the thing. We're going to try to create this and then make it into a movie. Well, no, it is that. It shouldn't be that. It's like when they make that documentary that everybody loved during the pandemic, and then they go, let's make it into a movie. Well, they've already got the documentary.
That's
we know
right,
the fucking story.
I know.
Why are we doing that again?
I think the same thing. Yeah.
Well, then why have you never said that then? why did I have to say it? And then you can just agree you don't get to
You're the second guy. The second guy in. Yeah.
No, this is mine. You can agree with me and say, yeah, you're really smart, but you don't get to have any ownership of it.
But wait a minute, I agree. But there are examples where that has happened, but it worked. Where the film of the documentary is actually engaging and thoughtful and successful, and I
mean, sometimes when we did Captain Phillips, I did that with Scott Rudin and Dana Brunetti. The impetus was we were watching the news. You get a version of the story from the news, but we were thinking, gee, the news can't tell you what's being said inside that lifeboat or what the hijackers are saying to Captain Phillips. And when you can dramatize, because I did Moneyball, Captain Phillips, and Social Network, all based on true stories. And the neat thing about dramatizing true stories, whether you're adapting a documentary or working off a nonfiction book, is you can bring audiences dramatic structure, which are peaks and valleys and moments that you
I'm
can't...
the captain now.
And that was an improv line too. Yeah.
I'm the captain now. And by the way, I remember reading Moneyball. That was 2003.
The great Michael Lewis.
When that book came out.
The great Michael Lewis, absolutely.
The great Michael Lewis.
great.
I've read all his books. These guys have never read a book in their lives. And I read that
My
book.
ears work.
They read book reviews, though, I'm sure.
But I remember thinking at the time when I heard that they were making Moneyball into a film, I thought, if you've read the book, you think, well, how the fuck are they going to do that, right?
Or Social Network, like, I want to see a fucking movie about
And it was
Facebook.
incredible. I loved Moneyball, the film.
We had Aaron Sorkin, who's one of the, if not the best working screenwriter, certainly one of the greats on Social Network, and he co-wrote Moneyball with Steve Zalian, who wrote Schindler's List. I mean, these are incredible screenwriters, and they were able to find the human story. Obviously, it's amazing. Yeah, what
it's
they did.
brilliant. If you've read the book, you realize how brilliant those screenplays are.
But talk a little bit if you don't think it's going to be a sleeping pill like my questions are. Is there an interesting story that Tracy might be interested to hear about how when you do a true story, how do you put the words into the mouth of real people without getting sued? Like, how does Aaron Sorkin go off and say, all right, now, Mark Zuckerberg says this, and
because
then he
it's
says
a dramatization.
That.
It's not.
I know, but you're using real people, so there's legal safe harbor you can
basically
get into.
the way, not to get too boring about it, but basically if you're not derogatory or defamatory, you have dramatic license certainly to make up dialogue. You also, we do a legal vetting of every screenplay based on a true story, and it goes through this vetting process of are you on the right side of the derogatory and defamatory line?
What's the risk we're running here?
And can you back up things that you're alleging through documentation? On Social Network, we had the transcripts of the lawsuit that Ed Saverin brought against Zuckerberg, and if you remember the movie, that's kind of home base for Aaron. That those depositions and that lawsuit are kind of what he cuts back to as the story's being told. So he was on safe ground there. On Moneyball and Captain Phillips, we actually negotiated the life rights of each of the people. So we had sewn them up before the movies were shot.
But then does that give them the right to then look at the script and say, no, I didn't say that, or I would never say that, take it out? Or
no, not
necessarily.
the script is written. They signed it away before.
No, of course you don't want to. You try to be responsible because you don't want people saying when the movie comes out, going on a PR jihad that this ruined my reputation. Yeah, Moneyball was actually great because we made our deal with Major League Baseball, and they were the gatekeepers, and all we had to do was make sure Major League Baseball approved the script and approved the cut of the movie. And
it is helpful when you have the life rights of people and you bring them into the tent. Like films, I worked on World Trade Center. We had John and Will's rights on Aaron Brockovich. Aaron's rights on this film Freedom Writers years ago of this teacher, Aaron Gruel. It was based on, we had the kids involved. We changed the kids' names to protect them and their background, but it was so helpful to have that authenticity and to have that collaboration with the real people.
But sometimes then your hands are tied, though, because it's a true story. Maybe the ending isn't as movie-ish as you might want it to be, and then you have to deviate from the real story and create some weird ending. And
let's ask somebody who loves having their hands tied. Sean?
So I would prefer a twist.
Okay.
I would prefer a twist.
That's with the glow stick in your teeth?
Pays to have their hands tied. Go ahead, Sean.
Before we let you guys go, can you talk a little bit about what you guys might be collectively or separately excited about that's coming out of Warner Brothers that the audience can be looking forward to? Who's you guys want to separately say which is your?
Sure.
You can't say which is your favorite coming out, but
that's like asking a parent,
I know.
which kid.
They're all our babies.
I know.
But
what's
coming up next that you're excited about? You're excited about all of them. What's coming up?
Well, look,
most?
this is I'm a little biased about New Line because I started my career there, so it's just neat for me to have it back in my life. Final Destination 6 is a fantastic theatrical experience.
Looks amazing.
It is so much fun.
Incredible.
It is so much fun.
Yes.
And then we have Zach's movie Weapons, which is his follow-up to Barbarian, which is completely original.
I can't wait to see that.
Wow.
Again, an incredible audience response. And Paul Thomas Anderson has made a movie with DiCaprio.
That trailer's so bitchin'.
It's so of its moment. We're going to drop, that was a teaser. There's going to be another trailer. It's so unique and so of the moment. I think that's going to really blow people away. We have Brad Pitt's F1 movie.
That looks
that's
incredible.
Just a fun, big Jerry Bruckheimer, Joe Kaczynski production.
I'm there day one. Nobody's a bigger fan than Brad.
Cool it, Will.
It's Brad Pitt at his Brad Pittiest. It's really amazing to watch him in that movie. And then, again, as a comic book geek, I'm really up for, I think, I cannot wait for the world to see James's new Superman.
That's great.
I'm excited. So I'm excited for all of our slate. And we have Mortal Kombat as well, too, in the fall, which is super fun. And I'm really excited for some of the stuff we have in post. I mean, we relaunched the animation.
Oh, yeah, Will, we
here.
launched Warner Animation to stand on the shoulders of Lego Movie and Lego Batman. And,
Will, you're I guess not included in that, though, huh?
No, we're going to have you back.
Warner Animation Group is back. It's back.
Yeah.
It's back. I feel like I sunk you guys with Teen Titans Go to the Movies, which is actually a great movie if you've ever seen it.
What's it called?
It's a phenomenal movie.
What's it called?
Teen Titans Go to the Movies.
I love that movie. No, I love that film.
I hear that's great.
And I convinced, we worked with those writers, Aaron and
you bet.
And Michael are brilliant.
Yeah, they're brilliant. I agree. Yeah. I think James and Peter are working on a live action Teen Titans, but a new Teen Titans Go, I think, actually, too.
Will, maybe you could read for that. You play pretty young.
But we're really excited about the new animation label.
Yeah, our first movie next year is Cat in the Hat with Hader as the cat. So
Bill Hader.
Really excited for that. And
I was in the original.
Like like Jason Bateman, Bill Hader's a director that we hope to have making movies at the studio.
Bill's
you know.
great director
love
too.
Bill, yeah.
Yeah, we have Emerald Fennell's movie Wuthering Heights next year. We have Maggie
Another great
Gyllenhaal's movie The
director.
Bride next year. So we're really jazzed about, the eclectic slate we're trying to build here with the
That is
existing
eclectic.
IP and, filmmaker driven.
It is really exciting that you guys are there and doing what you're doing and the way that you're doing it. And I'm so
thank you,
excited
man.
for you.
Thank you.
This success. I don't know when this is going to air, but Minecraft and Sinners, double barrel. Blockbusters coming out of the gate this month, and so just
We
huge
love Jack.
congratulations to you
Oh,
guys.
Jack's
Yeah.
the best. Yeah.
Thank
Look, man, it's
you.
the best. Like we love when you love movies.
it.
It's the best job in the world. We've been obsessed with movies since we were toddlers, and to be able to do this
It's a dream.
It's a dream come true.
You can tell with the films you guys are giving your yeses to. So please keep doing that. And thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah.
You guys are
Thanks for
you guys
having
Oh my
us.
God!
This
Thank
is
you.
so fun.
What an honor! Thank you guys so much. We love it. We love
great.
SmartLess.
So
Yeah,
great.
thank you.
Thank you.
I know, we
Please
love
now go back to your busy day and green light some
No, this
more
is the
great
most
stuff.
fun we're going to have today. So thank you for this.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys.
All
Thanks,
right.
guys.
Bye. Have a
Take
great
care.
day.
Bye.
See you later. So, guys, I got to mix
That
it up
was
a little
really
bit.
interesting.
Yes,
and-
I was just
I
gonna
could talk to
say.
them for a lot longer. I could
Right?
I
talk to
was
them for
just
a
say,
lot
so
longer.
interesting to talk to that kind of caliber of people on the show.
I know.
We never get to talk to those people. We're always talking about them or about studios or about
people
whatever.
who work for the studio, they are
Yes.
running the studio. They are in
Yes.
control of what America
we
is
see.
seeing
Yeah,
at Warner
really
Brothers.
fascinating.
Yeah, and they've got such good taste, and usually those folks don't get hired to do such a corporately responsible job, and they manage to balance the two. I'm really fascinated with how they're able to do both that.
Yeah.
God, you're so stupid.
I'm so dumb. I know it
Sorry.
would be hard for me. I can't do two things at once.
I couldn't
You
do anything.
see
I
me
always
try
say,
to
I always
chew
say
gum?
imagine if I was in charge. You think we'd have bridges and roads? If there would be nothing. We'd all be huddled under a tree if I'd been in charge. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
How do you think you would do at running a
Oh.
studio, Will?
I would say terrible. I'd run into the ground 1 week.
What
I
about
would
you,
love it.
Shawnee?
I
You
would love it.
I think I would really love it too. I don't think I'd be any good at it, but I would love it just for a week to be on the buying side, right?
I think I could do it.
Get to sit there and just say, "Yes, tell me."
Yeah, and I think it'd be super fun and like
I
they
think you'd
said,
both be horrible. You drive everybody who work for you crazy. Everybody'd hate you both. Knowing you both as well as I do, everybody who'd work there
Would
would
hate
fucking
me.
hate the hell out of you.
Snacks would be,
And they
so
wouldn't be able
good
to
in the
tell you
office.
because
Good. Oh
neither
my
of you
God,
are
we'd-
self-aware in any real way. You know
we'd
what
have
I
a
mean?
gummy.
Oh yeah,
like,
a gummy closet, a chips closet.
Yeah, but you know what?
Wait, you guys
chocolate
are talking about the
closet.
snacks.
Yeah.
no, wait, I got one.
Oh, here he comes.
But the biggest movie that they did was so great. What was it last year? What was it about the Hasbro, the doll? What was it? Barb.
No, that's B.
It doesn't
It's not
fucking
buy,
rhyme,
so you
dude.
can't use it.
But
It's
we've been
lazy.
using,
No, try another title that's
If
got
you want
buy
to
in
find
it.
if you want to find a word that does rhyme,
Barby
why don't you
would've been
just go and
great.
look up and use some help from a bye?
No, not there either.
That's
No.
not,
That's not a word either.
it.
Barby would have been great.
Let's see here.
Bye?
Yeah, Barbie.
Yeah, Barbie.
That would have been great.
Okay, you know what? I just checked with the judges; they will allow.
You know what? Hang on. I'm going to look at a word, and you two, I'm going to put both of you on standby.
Bye.
Very good. Bye.
No, that's a bye.
SmartLess.
SmartLess is 100% organic and artisanally handcrafted by Bennett Barbaco, Michael Grant Terry, and Rob Armjarf.
SmartLess.